This is my STIHL MS460, and I've been running it on that Alaskan chainsaw mill. I haven't had any issues, but unfortunately I have one now. What I did yesterday is I mixed up a new can of gasoline, and I got the black so I know it's gas and oil, and I've got it marked. So I don't know if you can see on here, 2-gallon can. It's a 2-gallon can right there. And I filled it up to the line. Not precise measurement, right? But then I used this STIHL. It's HP Ultra. Makes 2 gallons. I don't know if that's going to be in focus. So I used 91 octane. I also put STIHL, and the fuel that I put in there had marble oils. The recommended 4 ounces per gallon. Plenty, should have plenty of lubrication. So took it off the mill, got over here, pulled the exhaust off. That's a telltale sign. If you pull that exhaust off and you see a bunch of scoring on your piston, because you can see the piston through the exhaust port, and I'll show you that here in just a second. You can know for sure that you burnt the saw up. So let's go in here. I've already got the covers off and I've got the exhaust off. I'll show you what the piston looks like through the exhaust port, and you can know if this is your problem or not. So let's look at it. Okay, so from the exhaust you take these 4 bolts off. This cover is removed, and then there's 2 more Torx inside. There's a gasket and a flange on the back side. Here's the flange, goes like this, and then there's a gasket on the back side. Let's look. You can kind of see, I think, the edge here. This piston's all boogered up, and then the ring, how bad it is. So I was pulling and pulling and pulling, had spark, put the spark plug in, new spark plug, and it just seemed like there was not really much compression. So on this saw you got the compression release up here, and when I had the compression release pressed, either with it or without it, it just didn't seem like it was building that much compression. It kind of gave me the telltale that my piston was shot. So you need this Torx to go through the head and get into that Torx on the jug. You're going to have this, because if you try to use an extension, it won't fit through the jug. So I just took a crescent wrench and I'm able to grab onto the screw and break it loose this way. It gives me plenty of torque. Okay, on the back side here I've got the carburetor all still in place. You'll see this small screw, and that is the boot for the carburetor, and of course you got to remove that in order to slide the jug up. Just take that flathead and try to pry that off. No wear on that piston, and then on the top side. Okay, I got my pick underneath the ring keeper, and let's see if I can get it worked out. There we go. Looks like I've got it. Try to grab a hold of it with my needle nose so I don't lose it. There we go. Alright, so there's the keeper, and the wrist pin should slide out. If you push on it from the other side. Okay, you can see got a little wear on there. Definitely tell it got a little warm. Here we go. You can see how hot that piston got, and it actually burnt right here where the exhaust port is. And the rings are burnt and stuck. That's why it won't build compression, because of this. Needle bearings for the rod, the upper end of the rod. So I'm going to try to get those out. And those should just slide out. Okay, you can see that just pushed right out. And there's my needle bearings. I'm sure there's a recommended lubrication, but I'm just going to put some spray lube here on it just so they're not dry. So if you look at the old piston, you'll see the arrow here goes towards the exhaust side. So I'm just gonna, there's an arrow on this piston as well. See, look how pretty that new one is. And we'll put it in that same direction. So I got the first one on, and these are 52mm rings. So the way I do it is just get that backside in the groove, and then just work it around. Because once you get one in the groove, it's going to give you a little bit more slack all the way around. I'm going to take the wrist pin and slide it through the piston and put it right at the base of the keeper. I'm going to try the flat blade screwdriver. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to do this in place. Wow. Okay, once I got it, it just snapped in. Okay, so got my keeper in, and I'm gonna, keeper's in on this side, so I'm gonna, my arrow's forward. I'm gonna slide the pin in and try to keep the bearings all in place. Alright, got the wrist pin in. This is the only way I was able to get it. I put one side in of the keeper. I put it in the ring, in the groove, and I held it with my index finger on the back side and just held that down. And then I took my little flat blade screwdriver and pried on the top side with my finger over that clip, and just kept prying it with the tip angled inward, and just went slowly and patiently, and just was able to push that in. And once I got it far enough on the inside, it snapped in place. I didn't catch it on camera, but that was basically how it is, and it took me quite a few minutes to get that in. So now I've got to get my piston ring compression tool and my new gasket on here. So I'm done with my little paper. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. Try not to get too much trash down there. And let's find that new gasket. Okay, so let's just compare these two heads, and what I'm noticing here, these are not quite the same. If you look at this, I know it's not exact science, but look how large the exhaust port is. Look how narrow that port is. This is much higher flow than this. I'm going to have to do some significant porting on this to make this the same. So I'm going to kind of work on that a little bit, and then we'll come back and hopefully I can get these to be identical. I'm going to take the exhaust gasket and lay it on here and trace this out and see how much I can cut. Okay, here's the comparison. Here's the new exhaust gasket. You can see this is the old head jug. It's completely full port. Let's bring in the new one. Here's the new one. Look at that. And this is going to be a very poor performance, and that's not what you need in a chainsaw. So I've been to the port shop. Actually, my neighbor works on small engines, and I was able to go over there and he hooked me up and helped me get this ported. So now you can see the picture from before. Now look at that gasket, got a complete port. And also he pointed out how much different the intake port was. So I also ported that intake port out, and it's going to be just as good or better. One other thing is the dome on the inside here seems to be a lot larger. So a positive and negative. This one seems to be, I don't know if it's just because it's brand new, but the cutout for the dome seems to be a lot less. So probably going to have a lot of compression in here. I guess we'll see how it does. I'm going to clean this up, just got back, so I'm going to get this all. Okay, so here's a little kit, a piston ring compression tool for small engines. I don't remember where I got this from, but I bought it the last time I rebuilt my Husky, and it works. Okay, let me show you here. Your rings, there's a little pin right there on your piston, and that's where your ring gap lines up. Of course, I don't think that's, oh, there it is. So there's one on the bottom and one on the top. That makes them offset. And let's see if we can get our cylinder, our piston in our cylinder. There we go. Get our compression tool rolled around and out. Okay, that's out of the way. Now we just need to slide the jug down the piston and get our gasket and our bolts lined up. And try to get each one started. And then I'm going to work on the intake. The boot on, and I just need to tighten it down with my small flathead. Okay, the car boot is tight. I'm going to go ahead and snug down the jug bolts. Alright, so I've got everything tight, and what I'm going to do is just go back with the same, essentially the same torque. And what that was taking, I'm going to take my crescent wrench, being that I don't have a torque wrench, and just go about 1/8 of a turn on each one. Not to over tight or to break or strip the threads. I'm sure there's torque specs on this. If you're interested in that, I'm sure you can do a search. I don't have them today. Remove the compression release. There you go. Okay, let's put this in. Gonna have to flex that handle out of the way, but I was able to get it. Okay, so I've got the intake secure, I've got the compression release in. I'm going to go ahead and install the muffler. Wow, I think after much painstaking labor I've got this muffler installed. Hand torque it. Alright, so that's installed. Now we got to put the cover on. And that gets the two small Torx in the top. And you don't want it to fall off while you're running. There's one Torx here on this back cover and two on this side. And the spark plug. And of course the carburetor little guard here. Get that on. Air filter, cooling ram, whatever they call it. And air filter cover. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go test run this if you want to stick around and watch that. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Hope you got something out of this video. I didn't really want to have to do this, but I've got it done. I got the jug ported on both the intake and exhaust cylinder. Got it all put back together with a brand new piston. So I'm ready to go fire it up. Before I do that, I'm going to go mix some more fuel. I'm going to mix double what it calls for, or what I've been running, which is 51, which I think is really lean. I'm going to go probably 25 to 1 to break this engine in, and then when I get done breaking it in, I'm probably going to move up to maybe 40 to 1. 50 to 1 is just completely too lean for this saw. I've had it run hot before, which is the reason I had the rebuild kit, and I thought it was done, but apparently it's just a hardy saw, and it wasn't. So now that I've got it rebuilt, I'm going to be running it no less than 40 to 1. So I'm going to go mix double the oil, and we'll be back to run it. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.